follow-up video to yesterday's video. You never know when you're going to get something to share, right? And it's all about remembering and sharing the story that you went through, right? That video that I just posted yesterday about Sisters of Laredo, fasting for 9 days, trying to manifest stairs for the church, and then they got it on the 9th day. From my own experience, you'll continue to be supported until you understand that your thoughts are creating your reality. Picture your mind as a plus and minus switch. And this is something that I've experienced. As you're moving forward and you're starting to do things for yourself, the more that you attract other people or entities that aren't doing things for themselves. They just need a source, and they don't see themselves as the source. You are the creator. So doing something for yourself, this sounds selfish, but you don't realize it. But by being selfish, you're actually helping people because you're forcing them to become more independent. They're going to have to fall into their creativity and start creating their own reality. That's the ultimate end goal we're going through, right? Because people aren't going to be able to feed off of each other anymore. They're going to have to spend more time for themselves, taking care of themselves, getting in and falling out. People have to go through rest periods to bleed off negative thinking of, I can't do this, or I can't manifest that. So if you're over 50% in the negative, then whatever it is that you're thinking about or whatever that goal is will never manifest. You got to eke the needle right over the 50% mark, at least, right? So every time you think about that thing, doesn't matter if it's a car loan or if it's a car. It's super easy. And this is the problem with money in and of itself. If I got $1 million in the bank and I'm going to go buy a car. The odds that I think that I can't buy that car are pretty low. Right? Without realizing it, it didn't have anything to do with the money. It had to do that I believed that I could get that car. That's really the secret behind all of that. Because your own belief in what you can do and what you can have and what you're worth is at the core of every single relationship that you see out there. Every single relationship that you interact with. I don't believe that I could have that. I don't believe that I am worthy of that. My train of thought and my thinking has changed so much in my journey because I used to think, what can I do for other people? And not realizing it, what the best thing that I can do for other people is work on myself. That's it. And show them an example. This is how you do it. That's why that story of Jesus is so interesting. And they never tell the story in the Bible about how he got to the 40 days of fasting. 40 days and 40 nights of fasting. He recreated himself from the inside out. And the only way that he could get to the place where he could even do that, think about that. Do you have confidence enough where you could just go walk out into the desert with no food or water and be fine? Right? Your mind, you have to reprogram your heart, mind, and body to a place where you can do anything. Until you get to that point, there's a process. You have to go through that process because you're retraining your mind, for one thing, as to whether or not what the other state of other people are. You and I are one, just as the Father are one. So technically speaking, everybody has access to the same amount of knowledge and information. And the thing is, you always get breadcrumbed. You never know where you're going. You just get the information at the time you need it, when you need it. So, that's pure faith, right? You just walk out. I'm going to be fine. And then you just see what happens. You get forced into pain cycles, for one thing. I know for a fact. I mean, that's what happened to me after I quit I've been living really well, for 25 years. I worked as an electrician. There have been a little bit of cycles, but for the most part, I've been pretty comfortable. I got an extra house where you go play out in the wilderness. It's not living a bad life. But if you cut off the money flow, then it forces you to dive deep into yourself. And then you realize, then it makes you examine your own mind. Which way is my mind going? Is it falling into the negative or falling into the positive? Especially when it comes to love relationships. Am I worthy of somebody who really cares about me? Because if you're with somebody that's just focused on money as their support, then they're still in this, because then as money goes up and down, they'll be flopping back and forth. And then their security, your mental and emotional security is out of balance. I mean, that's what I went through. Just out of balance, mental and emotional security, until you finally get to a place where you just give up. It's non-attachment. So that's the key to manifestation. It creates better focus, because now that you're not attached, you're not consuming anymore. You're not seeing anything out there as your source. And so now you're not consuming from the things that are pulling you away from your own creative cycle. And if you want to manifest something in this reality, you've got to give it something in return. Which is your energy, your time and energy. That's it. Pour your time and energy into it. So there's a lot of training videos out there that, you see people on where they say, why are 90% people of manifestations work technique? Because for one thing, their mental and emotional state is out of balance. So you're in these states where you're in higher, lower emotional states. And so you're not able to focus on that manifestation, whatever it is. And if you are focusing on it, it can get pulled into the negative. Like, well, maybe that won't happen. This might not happen for me. Or, yeah. So everything is testing your faith. And faith is just belief in yourself that you can have whatever you want. Freedom. Pure freedom. And if you don't do that for yourself, if you're spending all your time trying to teach other people how to do that, you're not free. You are literally enabling somebody's trauma bond. The information's out there. The information comes to you by divine guidance. All you have to do is walk the path. That's why Jesus said what he said. If you break down everything in the New Testament, everything that Jesus did and said, it lines up exactly with what I'm saying. You can't put new wine into old wineskins, because your body you have to recreate your body from the inside out, create a light body. Once your vibrational resonance is that high, now you've broken time down to where now your manifestations are just like bang, boom. But until you break your body down, you're a vibrational engine that creates the structure that's moving energy. So by a lighter body, has a much more complex structure that actually could possibly phase in and out of this three-dimensional reality that we're living in right now. But you can also move a lot more energy. Recently, I just wrote a book about, if you guys haven't seen the video, Joe Rogan interviewed, what's his name? Forget his name. About element 115. Right, there was an element that he said that he experimented with in Area 51, or was one of the other experimental top secret, corporative areas in either Nevada, I think it was in Nevada, and why that element works the way it does. You can connect anything to it and it'll provide power for it, and how much energy it's moving dictates its level of anti-gravity characteristics. So if you think about it this way, if you had a structure in this dimension that was connected to a structure in a higher density dimension, then that structure in that dimension may look, comparatively speaking, in that dimension might be a smaller structure there, but much heavier here, because things are moving way more energy in a denser dimension. Everything's moving less energy here. Weaker structures. So in order to create a connection between a structure here and a structure there, the structure here would look super dense, hence like 115. And if you connected something to it, if it's able to move the energy that it's connected to in the other dimension, then it's going to move way more energy. And the more you connect to it, the more it's just going to move, which is what they saw. Not only that, but if you try to move it, it's going to push back because it's connected to a fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional, seventh dimensional spot in that dimension. So the more you try to push on it, the more it's going to push back against you in this dimension. Anti-gravity. So all you would have to do, and that's what they used it for. It was anti-gravity. You could just connect it and point it in a direction and shoot you in a direction. Pretty amazing. But it gives you some insights into what this all is, right? And that's the path you want to be on if you want to get to where you can just manifest things. And, I mean, but it's all about taking care of the self, managing the self. What is it that you have to offer for the world? And then teaching that. Yeah. You know, in a lot of ways. So the struggle between spirituality and this reality is to manifest something that people need, that where it takes care of yourself financially. But you don't have to worry about that as long as you're just traveling the path. I mean, you'll provide that material. Just the guidance for getting there provides that income. And that's what you see in the spiritual community, right? I mean, the whole spiritual community is all about guiding people towards higher senses of awareness and moving forward. And many people live off of that, you know, just taken up. That's what the spiritual community is, pretty much, right? I mean, and you get to a place, if you can heal the mind body, then everybody's going to flock to that, right? You're going to manifest cash that way. There are better ways to manifest cash. For one thing, and this is something that I've always been like a little bit on edge about, and that's why coaching seems a little bit off to me, because you don't want to make people feel like they don't have the answers themselves to what they, because if you can teach people to trust themselves and trust the process, that's how they end up, that's how they conquer their own mind and their own reality. It doesn't matter how much you watch my channel or how much, if you just stick to your 9-to-5 job and rely on what you're doing, you won't understand. You'll never get to that place. That's why Jesus said, you know, it is easier to, you know, walk a camel through the eye of a needle than to enter the kingdom of heaven. Or it would be easier for to take a camel through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom. And why is that? It's just because of what I just said. Because money, if you're relying on money for everything you do, you're never going to be able to rely on yourself. And you're never going to understand your ability to conquer your own reality has nothing to do with money. You are a creator. And the power of your creations are directly proportional on your own energetic state and which direction your positive, negative mind are flopping. So the other weird thing about this is everything's a dichotomy, right? To become a very shining light, you kind of have to look dark to everybody else, like you're just doing everything for yourself. Like you get to a place where you're just not doing anything for anybody. I mean, think about what Jesus looked like by the time he just disappeared. He left his family. He realized that the only way that he was going to become what he needed to become is if he just completely went away. Left. God. He abandoned us. I mean, you can imagine, right? His mother probably freaked out. Everybody around him probably freaked out. He disappeared in the wilderness for over a month. We thought he was probably dead. But that process purified him to where then he could start doing things for other people that nobody else could do, because nobody else would brave that. Nobody else came to a place where they understood how they were creating their own reality. And so he became a fisher of men. He started teaching people what he did. And some of them got really close, like Paul, but not as close as he did, just because they were still kind of feeding off him, right? And so that secret needed to be buried, and they had to martyr him. So, yeah, think about that for a while, guys. I'm gonna get off here. I got some other stuff I'm gonna do today for me. we'll catch you later. Bye.